The truth about the Belfast riots and the Belfast protests that happened recently in June is that I've gone through this before, that the reason why, any civilians basically protest, whether it's left-wing civilians, whether it's right-wing civilians, all civilians basically protest for the exact same reason. The reasons that they say they're protesting for doesn't really matter, because ultimately they're all protesting for the same thing. People protest when there's imbalance, when the government isn't doing enough to improve people's lives. And it seems to me, like in the UK, for instance, both left-wing governments and right-wing conservative governments, they're both really not doing enough to combat corruption and improve people's lives. And people, and like I've been saying, like all protests protest for this exact same reason. Whether it's people walking out of their jobs for better pay, meaning that the government is committing to imbalance, where they're not. People feel as if their wages aren't enough to like help them and support them, so it's down to imbalance. Um, whether it's like the anti-Trump protests that are happening in America at the moment, the No Kings protests, they're protesting because the government there is still not doing enough to improve the lives of the citizens. Um, and even when it comes to like the female protest in the UK that happened, down to a police officer abusing and I think murdering someone. They were protesting because of corruption, because of the government not doing enough to basically improve people's lives and to combat
The place
corruption.
is.
So these protests and these riots, they all and all protests and riots throughout in recent history, they're all protesting because of government neglect, government oppression, and ultimately government imbalance. Um, so that's going to be the end of why these protests happen, and it's the same thing with all protests. So that's the first part done. Now, the reason why um, a lot of these people protesting in the UK, the ones where they're flying their flag, um, it's not that they actually are racists, but what it's down to is there's bad faith actors online, and that's all these propagandists focus on online is look at all these like criminal immigrants. Like they always
What's taking that
hyper
guy so long?
focus like pretty much only on the criminal ones. So the reason why these people don't feel safe is because they've been fear-mongered to, and to the point where they think that all immigrants are criminals. When what you need to understand is civilians quite often don't understand like logical things and things like academic things, and um, people don't understand things like utilitarianism. So just because like a small amount of immigrants actually commit the crimes doesn't mean you stop all immigrants coming into the country. So it's just like, and that's something that the propagandists online don't really do. Or what they basically do is that they basically commit to being vague, and being vague is the point. As in, not teaching is the point. They don't teach about international law. They don't teach about utilitarianism. It's all about dumbing people down so they don't know what's going on. So then that confusion leads to anger and frustration. And then that leads to helping only certain political parties getting into power. So so that's a reason why these people specifically are protesting to the degree that they are,
What's taking
um,
that guy so long?
is because of that. But like I was saying, all protests, left or right, they all protest down to government neglect and government corruption and the government not doing enough to improve the lives of their citizens. And the thing is that whether the people are peacefully protesting or violently protesting, these people are committing to this extreme reactions because ultimately they are actually victims. Like, to me, I try not to kind of like look down on people because they have racist sentiment or what might be appeared as racist sentiment, because I understand that that type of stuff is taught, um, and it's not their fault. It's when these people online, these bad faith actors, prey on your emotions and exploit your psychology through a lack of like intentionally not teaching you. Ultimately these people are committing to this extreme reaction, um, because ultimately they are victims of disinformation online, and it's not their fault. And the thing that you realize is that the civilians, that there was civilians that got arrested during these Belfast riots, and the thing is that they're just middle class, and maybe they might be poor people, like lower class people. And the thing is that politicians and the political commentators basically creating this ignorance. Basically the rich corporate elite, the rich politicians, the rich political commentators. Um, they don't face any punishment for literally encouraging, um, extreme reactions. It's the poorish middle, or the struggling middle class that ends up um, facing like prosecution and jail time, where the people actually instigating it, the rich people, they get no punishment whatsoever. And it's just like, that's the two-tier system. That it's the rich people that can do all this stuff, all this manipulation. They get off scot-free, and it's the average person like us that ends up facing the consequences when the people to blame get off scot-free. And it's like when it comes to like, this is something that lefties don't tell you. Is that, to me, when I look at like the Jan Sixers, um, and when it comes to like that Lucy Conley that woman, sorry, she was like an average struggling person, and then she faced the consequences, and the rich people basically got off scot free. But what I was going to say is to me the Jan Sixers and this Lucy Conley person, which in a sense they were both like protesting, um, they were actually victims of, disinformation and manipulation online. So that's something that some leftists forget to basically go into, that these people are ultimately victims at the end of the day. And ultimately, I'm not on the side of the government. I'm always on the side of the civilians. Is like, we need to stop trusting political actors, like political commentators, and me being one. Don't trust me like 100% neither. Like, question everything, and people need to stop being so trusting of political actors online. Don't DTA, don't trust anybody. But anyway, so that's the video. I think I've covered pretty much everything that I wanted to. Um, yeah, thank you for watching the video. I hope you learned something from the Pioneer of True Centrism show. Hope you learn why all protests happen, that they happen for the same reason. And if you like what you hear in the Pioneer of True Centrism, why not give the video a like? Why not subscribe to the channel? Thank you. I appreciate you. On my channel, it's going to be hard for me to gather an audience because my channel's all over the place. I do left-wing stuff, right-wing stuff. Um, I do philosophy, theory. So just like, if you tune in, you might see a left-wing video one day and then conservative video the next. That's just the nature of being centrist. You try to like attack and defend all sides equally.
That place is.
So please, when you do like, subscribe, please continue, don't unsubscribe. I might eventually, do a video that might actually appeal to you, like with conservative values. But anyway, thanks for watching the video. I appreciate you so much. And this is it. Thank you.